Welcome to part 2 of how to make a basic mead. Today we're actually here in my tiny kitchen to show you how to rack the mead off of the original batch that we made, which I got sitting here, you'll see it in a second, and into a new fermenter or a new bucket. And my bucket's already been sterilized. I got everything soaking over here. I want to apologize. I've never had to do a shoot in this small of a space, so bear with me. The acoustics, as far as I can tell, are echoey. I'm sorry about that too. And the lighting is as best as I can do. Add that up with, we were going to film earlier so we could use natural light, but tornado warning kind of killed our plans. So we're going to try and go ahead and get this video done, and hopefully there will be no more power outages or anything like that. Now, ideally when you rack, I usually say go 3 weeks to 4 weeks. By then usually your bubbler has stopped, and sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. In this case, this one's still actually going really strong, and I believe it's been 5 weeks since I was able to get to it. So come with me for just a second here. Oh, I've never had to do this, I apologize. There you'll see, there's our bubbler and our airlock. Now it's been going pretty strong, non-stop. Now if I push on the top, when we say bubble, that's what you'll see, and normally it's just from the gas escaping. Luckily this one is slowing down a lot, so it's not constantly bubbling as it was a few weeks ago. All we're going to do is we're going to pop this open, and like I said, we're going to take a gravity reading. We're going to go and see where that's at. I'm not going to drag you along through all this, especially when we start racking, because literally it's like siphoning from one bucket to the other. I'm going to film the process and show it, but the entirety of it I'm not going to do. I'm going to make sure to edit it down, otherwise this will be a very long, boring video of you watching me siphon. Let's go ahead and get started. First off, I thought we actually might open up the mead and see what it looks like. So to open it, I have actually a bucket opener, because these things do seal well, just like a 5-gallon bucket would. So you will have to work your way around it. Alright. There we go. It comes right off. We'll put that in the sink so my wife don't kill me. And let's see if I can get the camera to get a shot of that. Now in there you can actually see the raisins. They've pretty much hydrated up really good. And you can see a slight ring around the side there, maybe. I don't know if you can see it or not. That's actually where it was foaming up during the fermentation process. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to be doing. Before I rack it off, now this, I did bring this and set this here, and I've let it sit for a few hours, because anytime you move it or agitate it, the sediment at the bottom can get stirred up. And that's what we're trying to rack it off of, which I'll give you a good shot of that when we're done, let you see how much yeast and gunk has settled at the bottom. So I let it sit for a good hour or so everything can settle and give us the cleanest rack we can. So we will be taking a gravity reading again today. So I got my hydrometer and my little test tube, like last time, ready to go. And to rack it, we will be using what's called an auto siphon, which, let me get a hold of it here. It's literally just a tube that it has a slight cover on the bottom, and then you have a hollow glass tube that'll hook into it and has some PVC food grade tubing that will actually go from one bucket to the other. Now, on my auto siphon, I do actually have a piece of cheesecloth secured to the bottom of it. Just it's an extra filtration, you don't need it. But this one's been going so long, I wanted to make sure to get as much yeast out of it as I could. And I'm hoping to get a clearer mead than I usually do. This is something a friend told me to try out. So I figured I'd give it a shot. Also with the raisins in there, just helps get a little extra clarity out of it. So we're going to give that a shot this time. Now the cheesecloth and what's holding it on to the auto siphon, that too has been sanitized. It's been soaking in my sanitizer bucket over here. You will need a fresh airlock. So I got another airlock sanitizing. And I do have my little turkey baster so we can draw some off for a gravity reading. So before we get to siphoning, let's say we go ahead and get a gravity reading taken on this stuff. Let's see how we're doing. Now everything, turkey baster, everything has been sanitized. And maybe I'm paranoid, I don't know, but I went ahead and completely sanitized the stove. Even though my stove was cleaned, I went ahead and sanitized it also, just because I'd be working here. Alright, there we go. That's probably more than I need. But then again, my favorite part about gravity testing is, now that you actually have mead, now's a great time to taste it too. Now, what we're showing in gravity is 0.30, or I should say 0.030, which is down drastically. I'll do the math in a minute and let you know exactly how that turns out. I'll get a shot at that and let you know in the end. I have to go get a calculator and I ain't got one with me right now. But we started at 0.113, so that's a huge drop. But that's not all the sugar, which is good, because like I said, we was wanting a semi-sweet mead at least, and we might have to back sweeten, so we'll see. The fact that it's still going makes me do think we will need to back sweeten. Okay, and before I forget, I want to go ahead and tack this on the end. I went ahead and did the math, so that mead is just hovering just below 11% alcohol by volume at this point, which is pretty good, though usually meads tend to go a little higher. So I'm thinking it's going to do a little more ferment on us. We'll see about that. I would expect this one to finish out at somewhere between 12 and 14. So we're just going to go ahead and let it run for a little bit and see what happens. So let's go ahead and, well, we got this test tube here, Mead. I say we do like any good mead maker and make sure we're making a good mead by tasting it. So I'm just going to pour straight into a glass because I'll drink this. So let's see what we got. Now you'll already see, color wise, this is a lot lighter than what we started with, that real deep, almost dark as brass ambery color. Oh, that's good. If this does not stop fermenting soon, I'm going to be upset, because this is good. It's just a good mild flavor. The yeast is definitely bringing out a little bit of a breadiness in it. I hope that don't disappear as it ages. But, oh, that's good. Oh yeah, that's my favorite part. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this set up for siphoning. Now, you'll notice I do have this on my stove. Anyone who's ever done any siphoning knows what you're siphoning from has to be higher than what you're siphoning to. So my bucket will be on the floor. Small as my kitchen is, I don't think I'm going to get that angle. So we'll do the best we can. Okay, now as you can see, I have my tube submerged into the mead, and I'm just going to keep it straight up as I can and a little bit off the bottom so I can get as much of this mead out without anything on it as I can. And as you can see, my hose is going all the way down to my other bucket. Easy as that. Now the auto siphon, as you see, the glass tube went into it, and you're just going to actually pump it a little bit to get it started. Now ideally you want enough hose that as you're siphoning, there's no splashing in the bottom, because any added oxygen or anything can actually stir up your yeast, and you don't want that. And this is it. You are officially siphoning at this point, and it's just a matter of standing here and waiting. So I'll go ahead and cut and get this done, and we'll show you the end shot. Okay, so I showed you what those look like, and I've already got all my stuff back over here in the sink, put away, made sure that's all cleared up. And I wrote down my new gravity reading in my notebook. That new gravity reading is actually important because that will actually let you know if this is actually done fermenting. If the gravity reading doesn't move for, I usually go 2 to 3 weeks, you're solid. It's not fermenting anymore. Some people still throw a Campton tablet in there just because they're paranoid. I usually do that. I won't lie. I'm paranoid. I don't like bottle bombs. So now that we have this rebottled and ready to go, I put my lid, cleaned it up, and I got it down in the sanitizer. So once you got it good and sanitized, you want to go ahead and just put your lid right back on there, because it's going to be sitting for a little longer to make sure it's done fermenting now that you got the excess yeast and everything out of it. So this particular stage can take another month. Sometimes it doesn't. I've actually had this particular stage take a week, and then I'm ready to start it, go ahead and finish it. And all finishing means is you test it, you see if it tastes the way you want to, and back sweeten it if you wish. Or and if you back sweeten it, you make sure to add a stabilizer to it to stop the fermentation and all that, which when we get to that stage I'll go over it. And then once you go through the finishing process, usually 48 hours later, that's when you move to bottling. And that's what we'll do. So I'm probably going to go and do at least 2 more videos with this series to get you all the way to bottling. Now that said, if you're throwing a party and you wanted to drink this right now and you weren't bottling it, let's say you were not bottling it, and you had a bunch of guests over and you thought you could drink 2 gallons of mead with all your company, this would be drinkable. It's not aged, so it is a little hot, as the term goes, which means the alcohol is very forward, but you could drink it. This is alcohol at this point. You have mead. But we're not going to. We're going to go ahead and finish the process out and see what we can end up with. Now I got my new airlock. Sanitized. And all you need to do is add a little water to it so that you got it balanced out like that. Put your top on it. Again, this just helps keep bugs out and everything. You just slide that right back into the hole on the lid. And this is ready to go back into the area you had it before where it was fermenting. And that's it. Your mead is racked. It's that simple. Now I will say the cheesecloth my buddy recommended. It did seem to actually keep the mead coming out clearer in the whole part of it, which is nice. But somehow it didn't seem to get a good, solid, long-term suction. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's the cheesecloth or perhaps my autosiphon has a crack in it. I'll have to check that. So we'll have to see. Maybe it was just such a small batch it didn't work as well as he said. But we'll look into that later. For now, I'm going to go ahead and get this back into its spot so it can continue doing what it does and make us some mead and enjoy some of it myself. If you're working along with this video, I hope your mead is coming along wonderfully, and I hope yours is tasting as good, if not better than this. Remember to like, comment below. If you have any questions, drop them below. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Or just say hi. We always welcome that, and it helps the channel out. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit the notification icon so that as this series continues and we release more videos, you'll be notified of them right away. I'm Drake. Thank you for joining me again in my tiny kitchen. And this has been Working Dragon Mystic. We'll see you next time. Take care.